Welcome, good afternoon. So this is our 416 Development and Growth 2, and today we're going to start discussing the fundamental causes or the deep causes of economic growth in the long run. So for this reason, there are three big factors that we're going to focus on in this week and the next 2 weeks. One is geography, the other is culture, and the third one is institutions. So today we're going to discuss the role of geography in determining growth of nations in the long run. By geography, I mean the entire physical, geographical attributes of a country. Okay, so our analysis is at the country level. Okay, and let me use some figures here to motivate our discussion. When we say geography, we're gonna introduce several stuff to our argument. Now, one is that, so let's imagine that there is this country, there are mountains, there could be a river, all right, and there could be a coastal sign. So if this is the river, right, there could be a lake somewhere here. So lakes, rivers, mountains. So there is what we call elevation. Okay. So this gives you the average height of the country's topography. And there is this idea of being access to sea. So if this is the sea, access to sea coasts, access to sea or oceans. Okay. And there is one thing, where is the location of the country in the world in terms of the latitude? Okay, so this is the equatorial line. So the latitude of the country matters, okay, because this is important for the climate. So we have several different things then: latitude, elevation, access to sea and oceans, rivers, lakes, mountains, and more generally, of course, we have natural resources underground. So natural resources could be underground resources, such as gold, or resources in general, timber and other stuff. Okay? And we have the climate. Okay? We have the climate. So let's check. Latitude, access to seas and oceans, elevation of the country, climate more generally, and natural resources, both underground and on the surface. Okay? So as you see, we cover all of this when we talk about geography of a country. Okay? Now, why are these things important? Let's think about elevation first. Why the average height of the economy, of the society, of the country is important? Well, first of all, it determines the type of agriculture you can do. You can actually exercise. You can so it determines the type of crops you can grow. It determines the type of trees you have, right? Because elevation is important for humidity, right? So there is something called humidity. Elevation is also important for the angle that the sunlight enters the country, and all of these things. It is also important. So general topographical features are also important. Why? For instance, if your country is entirely described by mountains, and if there are really like rocky mountains, or if it is very difficult to transport stuff across these mountains, then it is very difficult for you to benefit from large scale factory production. You cannot even construct in an economic manner, right? You cannot even construct certain things where you will use where you use for production. So general topographical features and elevation is then important for this regard. And why latitude is important? Well, again, it determines the climate of the country, because some of the countries that are located very close to the equatorial line, they have very bad climate. They are prone to certain diseases, certain epidemic diseases, and so on and so forth. So located very close to the latitude, very close to the equatorial line is generally a bad sign for you. By the way, I forgot to mention that your countries may have very fruitful, highly fertile agricultural areas, especially around rivers, right? Or your country may have deserts, okay? So that is also important, because again, that is critical for the types of products you can grow and how productively you can grow such products, okay? Now, what about access to seas and oceans? Why is that important? Well, the reason is obvious, right? It is important because if you want to industrialize, if you want to transit from agriculture to manufacturing, you may want to, of course, export some of these products and import some others, right? So if you are a landlocked country, the concept here is being landlocked, okay? If you are a landlocked country, you have no access to sea or oceans. You are here, and all around you there are other countries, okay? And that is a problem, especially when you have political problems with your neighbors. Okay, suppose that your neighbors A and D have actually access to C, but if you are in conflict, in certain political or armed conflict with your neighbors A and D, then they may limit your access to the sea and the ports here. So there are, of course, ports, right? So that you can sell your stuff and you can purchase other countries' products, so that you can increase your welfare. So why, for instance, lakes are important? Well, they may be important for irrigation purposes, right? You use the water in lakes to irrigate the agricultural areas around these lakes. And why rivers and elevation are important together? Because you want to build dams, right? You want to build dams for electricity production. Why timber and other resources are important? Obviously, they are a source of income, right? Same is true for other natural resources. But there is a problem here, as we are going to discuss. Having a lot of very valuable natural resources have some adverse effects on economic development. Some of them we discussed earlier, but those effects can also affect, of course, that can also have some implications for innovation, can also have some implications for human capital accumulation and capital accumulation. All right. And climate, well, climate more generally is important for 2 or 3 reasons. One is that uh, because of harsh climate, especially in very warm areas, the disease environment is bad. Some of the diseases, such as malaria, can be detrimental for a large portion of society because right now there is no vaccine for it. There are only medication. There are different types of medications for malaria, and there are of course other diseases as well. One other stuff is that, again, in very warm climates, productivity of manual workers is on average lower than other climates. Okay, and also climate, especially rainfall, can affect agricultural productivity directly, regardless of whether you have rivers, whether you have lakes, and etc. Okay, so as you see, we are facing this complex framework that may affect many of the growth sources. There's one famous saying, as you know, geography is destiny, right? Türkçesiyle coğrafya kaderdir. Have you ever heard that? People use it as a as a joke, of course, saying that instead of having been born in Turkey, you may have been born in Germany, or having been born in I don't know, Djibouti, you may have been born in Norway. So you can, of course, make such comparisons to make a point. But is geography really a destiny? Well, yes, because we are taking it as this big exogenous factor. So we are not trying to explain, for instance, we are economists, right? So we always iterate questions until we find that exogenous variable. And here, that exogenous variable for us is geography, and we are not trying to explain, we are not trying to develop a theory of geography. That's, of course, the task of geographers. But we may want to understand how decisions concerning economic growth, innovation decisions, accumulation decisions, fertility and mortality decisions, how can these be affected by geographical features? So today, we're going to try to understand that aspect. Let me pause here for a moment if you have questions. Otherwise, I'm gonna discuss certain aspects. So I'm gonna start identifying and detailing such stuff. Okay. So let me continue with one particularly interesting case. Let me open a new page here. So location of countries. So that's important, right? Because regardless of the topographical or climate-related aspects of a country, first of all, your location is defined by your neighbors, right? So if you are in a certain region of the world compared to another region, you may have some benefits. You may realize some benefits for being there, or some disadvantages. Okay, just because of your or neighbors, because there are certain issues such as agglomeration and spillovers. Okay, now what is agglomeration? You know that we actually covered this in Michael Kramer's theory of O-ring type development. Remember that skills and more advanced skills and better technologies, when they are matched, they increase productivity under the assumption that there are strong complementarities. So if there are strong complementarities between regions and sectors, they of course agglomerate in certain places. Now, it might be the case that your country could be close to such agglomerated industrial areas, okay? Now, this is true for Europe especially, right? In Europe, there are many industrial countries located together, right? So you understand which one is which. So in all of these countries, okay, in all of these countries, there are regions where industrial agglomeration actually have taken place, okay? So suppose that you are this country, all right? So this one. It might be the case that you are close to this region in your neighbor and this region in your neighbor, and you have some access to sea here through your neighbor on the south, and that might benefit you, okay? Compare this to Middle East, okay? So compare this situation with the Middle East. And that goes on Near East, etc. Right? Do you understand which countries are these? So let me give you the hint. So this is the famous river, right? So what do you see here? Well, if you are, let's say here, okay, and if you have poor relationships with your neighbors because of certain political and historical reasons, and in general, there are terrorist activities in certain states like Syria, Iraq, right? Lebanon. For instance, right now, there is, where was this? Is that Yemen? For instance, there is now this military conflict between Yemen and Saudi Arabia, all right? And that creates tensions here for long long years, Turkey and Egypt had problems. Okay, that perhaps create problems for Lebanon. I'm not sure. So where do you where is, I mean, where your country got located in the very first initial date is an important geographical feature. Okay. Now spillovers are also important because as in the case of agglomeration, you can benefit from knowledge sharing, okay, knowledge spillovers in general, knowledge or technology spillovers, or worker exchange or transfer. Worker exchange or immigration. In many small countries, all across the world, not just in Europe, not just in Africa, sorry, or Asia, there are actually daily commuters, okay? There's one country here, another country here. So this is country A, this is country B. Workers in country A, located in this city, commute daily to work in country B, okay? Now, if you are lucky enough to be located near to a technologically advanced economy that have many skilled individuals and many advanced firms, those firms can still find optimal to invest in your country because perhaps land is cheaper, okay? And their workers and managers commute daily to your country because these are neighbor cities. So they work there, they produce there, and then they return to their home. So there are many, many small countries in the world. They benefit from such spillovers, worker exchange or immigration, right? Immigration could be sometimes the case. For instance, Germany, of course, had migrant workers from Turkey, but not from Uruguay, right? Things like that. So right now we have about 1/2 minute. Let me pause here. So if you have a very quick question, I can answer it. Otherwise, we're gonna take a break of about 15 minutes, then continue. All right. Then let's take the break now. It is 1:38. Let's meet at 1:55. Okay.
Tamam hocam.
All right. Bye bye.